Your microphones are on mute. Please feel free to type any question during the presentation. We will try to answer them as we are presenting. We will also have a time for questions at the end of this presentation. A recording of the webinar will be posted on our grant making page within a couple of days. Michelle emailed you a handout with the highlights and information for this presentation earlier this morning. If you don't have that handy, that is also available on our grant making page. Before I get started, I want to introduce the program department staff. My name is Kelvin Alfaro, Program Officer with the Fresno Regional Foundation. Co-presenting with me is Michelle Murphy, a Foundation Support Specialist for Programs. And we also have Ms. Sandra Flores, who is joining us from the line. She is Senior Program Officer.
Good morning, everyone.
Great. A little bit of information about the Fresno Regional Foundation. We are a community foundation with long-standing history in the Central Valley. Since our inception in 1966, we have seen considerable growth. We are now up to $65 million in assets. Our regional footprint includes Fresno, Madera, Mariposa, Merced, Tulare, and Kings County. We have 5 specific grant cycles. In 2008, we began with the Arts and Culture, Youth, and Human Services. Through a successful partnership with the Hewlett Foundation, we added a teen pregnancy prevention component to our Human Services grant cycle in 2008. In 2011, we added the Environment grant cycle, and in 2012, through a partnership with the James Irvine Foundation, we added our newest grant cycle, the High Impact grant cycle. Before we get started, we always like to gauge our audience. And so we have a couple of questions. If you could respond to those questions. And Michelle, will you lead us with that? And so the first question is up on the screen now, is will your organization, is this your first time applying to the Fresno Regional Foundation? And we will wait for those votes to come in. How are we doing, Michelle? 86%, great. Okay, and let's go ahead and close it. Okay, so 69% of you are returning applicants, and 23% of you are new. So welcome to those. We will give you all the information you will need to apply to this grant cycle. And 8% that aren't sure. So we will. You may be new to the organization, so again, we will provide you the information you'll need to apply. Let's do the next question, Michelle. All right, so there are 2 funding priorities in this grant cycle. If I can have you select if you know which funding priority you're applying to. And we will wait for those answers to come in. Okay. Okay, and we're going to close it. It looks like there are 44% of you applying to the funding priority, children 0 to 8 and their families, 28% of you applying to college readiness, access, and attendance, and 28% of you are applying to both. For those that are applying to both, there is one caveat that you will not be able to apply to both. You will need to select one funding priority or the other. Let's do the next question, Michelle. The next question, does your organization serve urban or rural communities? We'll wait for those answers to tally up. And while everybody is entering their responses, I want to remind you if you have any technical difficulties, if you're unable to hear me, please type it in the comment box and we will address it. All right, So we've closed it, and we have a diverse group of people or organizations, 11% serving specifically urban, 22% serving rural, and 67% who serve both. All right, thank you everybody for participating in that. Our agenda for today, we will cover information on the 2 funding priorities. I will provide you information on the first funding priority, and Michelle will give you the information on the second. We will discuss reporting requirements. We will discuss how to apply, and final tips. And lastly, we will have an open room for questions. So let's get started. So in 2012, I mentioned that our foundation started our newest high-impact grant cycle. The goal of this was to help support children and families ages 0 to 8 for success by 3rd grade. Therefore, the foundation is exploring with this grant cycle how this grant cycle can best support our high-impact initiative. The goal of this funding priority then is to support children and families 0 to 8 by 3rd grade. These grants will support educational programs that directly impact a child's ability to succeed in school. Next, I have a video that was helpful to the committee and to our board in arriving at the selection criteria for this grant cycle. And we think that it will be beneficial for you as well. At this time, I'd like to see if there are any questions from the audience. Michelle, do we have any? Great. We'll go ahead and show you the video. If it does not play well, we will make this video available on our grant making page as well for you to review after. I apologize, everybody. We are having some technical difficulties with that video. Okay, we're going to restart it. Great.
Meet Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, and Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, and Jordan, and Jamie Johnson. 2 beautiful babies born on the very same day. Each baby has a good chance of landing in a good place in life. One of them has a good zip code number. Like 1 million babies each year, Jamie's been born into a low-income family. Jamie's mom lacked access to good prenatal care. Jamie is much smaller than Jordan. And since they won't have access to brain-developing activities found in high-quality child care, low-income children like Jamie will be 10 times more likely to experience developmental delays. It probably won't surprise you that by their 3rd birthday, Jamie's been exposed to a lot fewer words than Jordan. A whole lot fewer. And I imagine Jamie's 4th birthday
do it by the phone. Do you have it on mute?
All right. Everybody, if you could let us know whether you were able to hear that or if it played well. We will be sending you this this video via email in case you were not unable to watch it today. Nope. Right, so we apologize for that. We will go ahead and continue with the presentation. The amounts and duration available for this funding priority are $100,000, and the grants will range between $5,000 and $25,000. They will be 1 year in duration and will focus on Merced, Madera, Mariposa, Fresno, Tulare, and Kings counties. Next slide. And we're going on to the next slide. At least one of these factors will be required. This is what the video discussed. The 3 components are programs that support children and families in addressing chronic absences, programs that promote learning-enriched environments in the home, and programs that support healthy and educational activities to help prevent summer learning loss. Okay. The next bit of information is on collective impact. This approach has been an important component of the high impact grant cycle, and it is also an important component of this grant cycle. Collective impact is not new to the Central Valley, but it is new to the foundation. Therefore, FRF values collaboration with other agencies and organizations for greater results. We believe that working together in this way will contribute to sustainable community change. Demonstrating how your organization works with other stakeholders will cause your proposal to receive a higher ranking. Some of this criteria include having a shared vision, shared measurement, having constant communication, and building on the services and strengths of other stakeholders. We have a short video that we are going to skip at this time for the sake of technical difficulties, but we will provide you the link to that video for you to watch. The video goes into more detail about collective impact. We strongly encourage you to watch this video and the other video that we had no sound for. So we will email you those links after this webinar. The next bit of information on this is on the selection criteria. These are the factors that will cause your proposal to receive a higher ranking. So this is what the committee is looking for in proposals. Data that supports your program's impact. Programs that are customized to target populations, and proven expertise in the proposed field of work. Strong organizational capacity. The next slide provides additional criteria, and again, these will help your proposal receive a higher ranking. Having a strong rationale for the proposed program and or approach. Programs that trigger matching dollars or additional resources to the region. Integration with other programs, organizations, and or systems, and programs that increase educational opportunity for youth in rural and unincorporated areas. At this point, this is all the information I have for this funding priority. Michelle, do we have any questions?
Yes, we have can everybody hear me?
I can't hear you. Can any, Michelle?
Hi, yes, we have one question, which is, what if your program serves children through 3rd grade as well as others? Can you still apply?
Yes. So while the spectrum is from 0 to 8, there could be subsections of that a program specifically targets. Again, reviewing the selection criteria and identifying the rationale for that will be appealing to the committee. Next question. Okay. At this time, I'd like to have Michelle Murphy join me to present the information on our next funding priority, which is college readiness, access, and attendance.
Can everybody hear me now? All right. So our second funding priority, which if you are looking at your handout, is on the back page of the front page. This is for college readiness, access, and attendance in the Dinuba, Cutler-Rosie, Parlier, Orange Cove, and Reedley areas. For a little bit of context regarding this funding priority, Dorothy Mitsuoka passed away in 2008 and opened a fund with us for an endowed fund that serves youth in her area of Dinuba, Reedley, and Cutler-Rosie. Dorothy Mitsuoka spent her life in agriculture and farming, but always had a dream to graduate from higher education. Now she has created this fund to help the youth in her area realize those dreams for them. So due to these donor restrictions, these grants are for programs serving residents of the Dinuba, Orange Cove, Reedley, and Cutler-Rosie region. And this is for a total of $105,000 for educational projects and programs that support college readiness, access, and attendance. The amounts for this grant cycle, again, is $105,000, with grant amounts ranging from $5,000 to $25,000 for 1 year. And again, there is that geographic restriction to Dinuba, Cutler-Rosie, Parlier, Orange Cove, and Reedley areas. For the eligibility criteria for this funding priority, at least one of these factors is required. Programs that support college-bound youth that are high school age or older. Notice here the youth. We are not talking specifically teenagers who are in high school, but we would also fund programs that help students already in college stay in college to graduate. The second criteria is for programs that support students to continue in higher education, including career technical education. Based on the committee's discussion, these programs such as, for instance, mechanical programs or computer programming will work for this criteria. We're looking for well-paying, high-demand jobs for our youth. The selection criteria for this funding priority is as follows: practices that increase college readiness, access, and/or college attendance, data supporting program impact, programs customized to target populations, and programs that increase educational opportunities for youth in rural and unincorporated communities. Continuing on, we also are looking at proven expertise in the proposed field of work, strong organizational capacity, strong rationale for proposed program and/or approach, and integration with other programs, organizations, and/or systems. And with that, if there's any other questions regarding this funding priority, I'd be happy to answer them now.
Okay.
All right. Looks like we're moving on.
I do have one comment. Michelle, will you go back one slide? So I know we are providing the selection criteria and eligibility criteria to help applicants, to share this information for applicants so you understand what the sweet spots are in proposals. We don't want it lost over you that we put in the selection criteria data supporting the program. And then go on to the next slide, Michelle. Data supporting the program is the selection criteria, and then proven expertise in the proposed field of work. So while we always anticipate the great plans and projects that we receive through the application process, please do not let it be lost over you that this selection criteria, specifically the data and the proven expertise in the proposed field of work, is going to be important in a competitive process. So we want to know that you have some experience in reaching the targeted population. You have some experience in supporting that population for college readiness or access or for staying into college. And to get to that, to assess that, is going to be the data and your proven expertise in this type of work. So please do not let it be lost over you. Again, when you are writing your proposals, that you include the things, as many as possible, not every single one of them, but as many as possible in the selection criteria. Those are the things that are going to rank, that help the proposal rank higher. The eligibility criteria, and if you remember there were only two, those are going to be required. One of those is going to be required. If you don't have one, if your proposal doesn't align with one of those eligibility criteria, that is a deal breaker. Here, the selection criteria, we are helping you by saying here are the things that are going to cause the proposal to receive a higher ranking. So as many as align with these selection criteria will increase the competitiveness of your proposal. So I want to make sure there are no additional questions.
We have one more question. The question is, how firm is the requirement for students to be high school or older? I see that you have funded programs in the past that targeted middle school students. With this question, we want to reference back to the Goals to Fund. The Goals to Fund are the specific targeted outcomes that the committee wants to see this specific year. And so while in the past the Goals to Fund have focused on middle school youth or other subgroups, this year they're specifically focusing on high school or age or older. Not only is it a specific requirement from the committee, but it is also the intent of the donor that provided the funds for this funding priority, that is restricting that to that specific age group. Let's see, one more question. In Parlier, is Parlier an approved community for the college readiness access? It is listed in some places and left out in others. Parlier is an area. The fund specifically designates a couple of cities within that geographic region, but it does specifically say the regions around those cities, and so Parlier is one of those. Right. It is our oversight in not including that, but Parlier is included. Okay. Let's go to the next slide, Michelle. Are there any more questions before we go on? Then there is one more question, is what % of grant funding can be used for program delivery costs, such as staffing, training, and transportation? The Fresno Regional Foundation is not prescriptive as to the type of administrative cost associated with the grant. However, you know, the committee will review those, and as long as it is reasonable, they will not provide any additional restrictions. Sandra, do you have something?
I would add that our approach to the competitive grant making has been you know your project or your program, you know what the needs are, and so that should be included in your budget. So we're not going to question that. The things that we assess will come along the lines of, if you're going to be running a program an hour every 2 weeks, and if you're staffing it, your entire budget is going to a salary, we're going to want some rationale for the time. You know, full-time, if you're using a full-time employee and you're using this, the grant to support that salary, the activities and preparation of running a program an hour every other week, and the staff time, you know, we're going to want to see a balance. So, you know, those are the types of things that we will assess and bring into the discussion of the review process. I know that the fact that we don't limit overhead or staffing time is unusual. Most funders do place a limit, a percentage. They will say a certain amount could be applied to salaries. We do not, but we do look at the budget, and it should align with the activities that have been submitted in the proposal. I hope that provides some clarification. If not, please text us or email us, and we will provide further explanation, or we could revisit it at the end of this presentation.
Okay, great. So before we move on to additional information on how to apply, we want to address the question of, can you apply to both funding priorities? So at this time, you are not able to apply to both funding priorities. Essentially, you would be competing against yourself in that type of situation. And Sandra, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge that I know we provided a trick question at the beginning. It clearly states online that one of the priority areas has to be selected. So the question when we started in the poll was a trick question. So 28% of you responded that you were doing both. So we want to just take this opportunity to be very explicit and say that one of the priorities can be selected, not both. This is coming out of one pot of money, one committee reviewing it. In other situations during the year in our grant cycle, for example, Human Services and Teen Pregnancy Prevention, those are two separate pots of money and two separate committees. We just run those grant cycles concurrently. So organizations could apply to both, but that is not the case here. So for the 28% of you who responded to both grant cycles, if you were interested in applying to both, please understand that you could only apply to one, the 0 to 8 focus or the college readiness. And for the college readiness, you have to be in the region, serving the region listed, and Parlier was included. It was, again, our oversight not to include it in all areas of our public communications. I hope that answers your question. Any questions, and provide some clarity.
Great. The information we're going to cover is next is applicable to all grant cycles with the Fresno Regional Foundation. And before I continue, I want to remind everybody, if you have any questions, please type it to us. And this information is available on your handout, and it is also available on our website. So who can apply to funding for from the Fresno Regional Foundation? We fund nonprofit groups, government agencies, community groups with fiscal agents, public agencies, and education institutions that serve our geographic region. So it has to, services and programs have to be provided in one of our counties being provided. Next slide. The information here is how we measure financial health. These measures are not negotiable to the foundation. These are important to the foundation because they help us to increase funder and donor confidence. When we review these documents listed here, we are reviewing stewardship principles and practices for your organization. These documents and their timeliness reflect your stewardship principles. We provide examples on our website as to what type of documentation we request, and so those are available for your review. At this time, are there any questions? And again, I want to apologize to anybody with the technical difficulties that we experienced. We will make the resources presented in this presentation available to you online and follow up via email. These are restrictions, who we will not provide funding to, previously incurred expenses, fundraising by one agency on behalf of another, endowments, institutions limiting their services to single persons of a religious sect or denomination, and to individuals. Our next section that we are going to cover, we're going to be spending a bit of time here because it is important to the foundation. So these are reporting requirements. The reporting form grantees help the foundation to measure our community impact. A bit of context for you: when we began our competitive grant-making program in 2008, we began with the final report, what we wanted to see accomplished in the community and how we would measure it. And we worked backwards to get the questions that we now ask in our grant application. Before you apply, I strongly encourage you to review the reporting requirements for our grants. Understand the type of information that we will be asking you to collect, and then think about what data your organization is already collecting and what data you would need to start collecting for our final report. Organizations must be prepared to comply with reporting requirements at the end of the grant-making period. Failure to submit a final report may disqualify a grantee from future funding requests. We also ask that you provide us copies of any electronic press releases and our media contacts resulting from the grant award. We also like to receive photos, newsletters, mailing lists, because we want to share in the successes that you experience as you do the work of the grant. We use the information that you provide to us to increase your profile in the community by highlighting your work to the community, to our donors, and to other funders. So we're going to go into details about how to apply. First, I want to take us to our website to review the final report before we continue. Let's go ahead and switch to the... Okay, so what we have here now is the grant application. We have a grant report, my apologies. Most of the information here is self-explanatory. I'm just going to focus on the data that we collect. This specific section, although it is labeled for high-impact grant reporting only, it is going to be included in the youth grant cycle because it is focused on supporting the high-impact grant cycle. So we ask you information about the parents that you would be working with. We also ask information on gender, age, ethnicity, breakdowns for the people that you are serving, including any geographies, zip codes that you're serving. Most of these questions are most of the questions are self-explanatory, so we will leave that up to your perusal. To apply to the youth grant cycle, we realize in this grant cycle that there is a cost to the applicant and to the funder in applying for funding from any funder. To mitigate that workload for your organization and for our volunteer board members and committees, this year we're implementing a letter of interest, LOI process, to the youth grant cycle. Before I show you that, let us review the deadlines. We will have a deadline for the letter of interest due April 16th of 2014. And then our committee will review those, and by invitation, organizations will be asked to submit a full application by May 20th. We will have a grant reception on June 26th. However, if you are awarded, we will notify you as soon as our board has approved those grants. Because we do realize that some of you may be planning summer programs for youth, and the June 26th deadline is a little late to be notified. So you will get notification as soon as we know, which will be on the week of April 8th. Isn't that it? I'm sorry about that. I apologize. I have an incorrect date. It is. It will be sooner than June 26th. It'll be the week of June 9th. Thank you. So I'm going to show you the letter of interest at this time. And what we want to highlight here, the questions again are self-explanatory. We provide a template that is available on our website for you to download. If you click on grant making, you will find it right here at the very top. There's a template for you to download. The first page contains information about the instructions and format that we are requesting for this. It's limited to 3 pages. And all the questions are, like I said, self-explanatory and limited to a number of paragraphs. Again, we're trying to mitigate the workload for the committee and for yourself as an applicant. Okay, at this time, I'd like to see if there are any questions. And it looks like we have one. When you report the number of parents served, is that a duplicate count or a unique count? Yes.
I would say that our applicants would need to be prepared to do an overall count when you're serving. So if you go back to the final report, there's going to be a place to say gender served, age served, and that's everybody. But we're going to want you to pull out the parent information in the parent section. So we will confirm with you that that's what you in fact did. But the top part of the demographic information of the report is everybody, and then we want specific information about the parent, so it is not duplicate.
Right.
And just a little, an additional comment about the report. We put the report in, as Kelvin mentioned, to highlight the importance. We put it in the report, the information on the report, in this information session as we kick off a grant cycle, because it's very important to the foundation. And as the poll indicated on the front end, I believe there was 65% of you who have applied to the foundation before. So some applicants have had challenges with the data collection. So that will certainly be a question from the program staff to those organizations as we go through this process. We're going to want to know that those challenges have been mitigated and that the organization is better prepared to collect this information. So I believe we've spent probably 10 minutes so far, going on 10 minutes on this section, again, to reinforce the importance of the final report in an application process. So I appreciate trying to get an understanding of duplicate numbers, but I hope we provided some clarity that the first part of the data and demographic information is everybody. The portions for the parents, we just want specific. It is not going to be duplicated. It should be included in your overall numbers in the first part of the report.
Okay. Before we wrap up the section, thank you, Sandra. Before we wrap up the section on the LOI, I want to provide some context. We understand that writing an LOI can be a difficult process for anybody. So we are offering an opportunity to receive feedback from the program staff. However, I want to preface that with we are not able to do that within 2 weeks of the deadline. That would mean that you would have to, if you wanted feedback from us on your writing, that you would have to submit it to us on the first week of April, which is 3 weeks out of the deadline itself. So that opportunity is available, but like I said, we are not able to do that during the last 2 weeks before the deadline.
And just a little more context, we run grant cycles simultaneously. We are in an arts and culture grant cycle, and so we would still be in that grant cycle wrapping it up while we're actually launching this next grant cycle. So we certainly want to be accessible, available, and helpful to applicants. So we will be happy to provide feedback on these LOIs because we know they are challenging. But please be mindful that there are 2 program officers and 1 foundation support specialist for the competitive grant making. And so we need to manage this program staff time in providing timely feedback to applicants. So I believe Kelvin and Michelle did the in-person session yesterday, and we've already received LOIs for their feedback. So, and we know that everybody is busy, but we will offer our support. But again, let's adhere to the timeliness and the bandwidth of the program staff to get you the feedback.
Right, and the type of feedback that we will provide is similar to what we would do once we received it and are getting it ready for committee. So we will ask you questions, maybe highlight specific areas that are clear and compelling. Let's keep going to the final tips, Michelle. The final tips are specifically to the LOI process. We encourage you to please read the cover page of the LOI and follow the instructions on formatting and other instructions listed there. Ensure that your project aligns with either of the 2 funding priorities, either supporting children and their families 0 to 8 for success by 3rd grade, or college access, readiness, and attendant. Otherwise, you may not receive an invitation for a full application. The questions in the LOI are designed to tease out the work that you're proposing. Please answer these questions. And a reminder, email your, there's instructions in the cover page, but please email your LOI to the program staff at the email provided in the template. And don't forget your subject line to be specific as we identified there. And also give yourself plenty of time to complete the LOI. At this time, I'd like to open it up for any additional questions that we may not have covered so far. Michelle, do we have any questions? Okay, at this time we don't have any additional questions. If after this presentation you do think of a question that you would like for us to address, please feel free to email us. We have our contact information listed on the PowerPoint at this point. Please use the program email as you'll have a higher likelihood of getting a return email much faster because we all 3 of us receive those emails at that specific email. Great. I want to, oh, Ms. Sandra has an additional, no? Great. Great question. Yes, you will be notified by April 30th if you are invited to submit a full application. Great. Thank you, Dina, for your comment. At this time, since there are no further questions, I thank everybody for participating in this webinar, and thank you for sticking through it even with the technical difficulties. We will follow up with an email and additional resources. And Sandra?
I will just add that we included the 2 videos in the presentation because they are pertinent to this grant cycle. So when we send you those links, please take a moment to listen to them and watch them. They will help you and give you context for what this committee is looking for in proposals. So please take the time to review those links when we send them to you. And again, if any questions emerge after this session, please email them to the program staff, and we will reply to you directly.
Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.